Hello and thanks for joining the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Veronica Danik-Boy. Today on the program, Nigerian Army finds remains of missing retired General Idris Alkali in Jos. Police arrest 400 Shiite members over Abuja disturbances as IG puts commissioners of police on red alert. Buhari hosts aggrieved APC aspirants to dinner in Aso and later on the show, governors agreed to pay 22,500 naira as new minimum wage as NLC insists Nigerian workers least paid in Africa. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Gani Kayode Balogun and Adekunle Yusuf. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to the program.
It's a pleasure.
Journalist Hangout starts now. Well, after intense search, the Nigerian Army says it has found the remains of missing retired General Idris Alkali. The body parts were found inside an abandoned well in Gotwet community, Jos South local government of Plateau State, close to where his vehicle was earlier discovered in a mining pond. Let's give you the story in this report.
This is the abandoned well where the remains of the late missing General Idris Alkali was found after weeks of rescue and search operation. The leader of the search and rescue operation told reporters that one of the people arrested in connection with the killing of the late Major General took the rescue and search operation team to the abandoned well, where his remains was relocated.
As you are all aware, on the 29th of September 2018, we were able to discover the vehicle. We saw his personal effects, which confirmed that was him. In the same vein, last week, I called you and I showed you the shallow grave in which General Alkali was buried initially. We have declared some people wanted, and based on that, some of them have reported to the police, and some people who took part in the relocation brought us to where he was relocated.
The leader of the search operation assured that anyone found in connection with the killing of the senior army officer will face the full wrath of the law irrespective of his or her position in the society.
For all those who took part in this heinous act, let me tell you that nobody, no matter how connected a person is, whoever is involved in this heinous act will not go unpunished. For those who have not submitted themselves to the police, let me tell them that we are in their trail and we'll find them sooner or later. So based on that, I want to tell you that we have recovered the remains of late General Alkali.
The remains of the late Major General Alkali was then lifted to the army ambulance in a short military parade to the headquarters of the 3rd Armored Division, where he will be given a proper military burial.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen, it's a sad and tragic as well as condemnable situation there, Jide.
Yes, and I'm happy that
the army was able to...
not the army alone, the army, the police, the fire service. So when we work together, when the security agencies work together as a team, they always get the right results. It's just like the army working with the Air Force. There was an attack on a town called Gashigar in Borno State a few days back. And the Nigerian Air Force had to deploy his #1 killing machine, the Mi-35. 2 Mi-35s actually went to the scene to save the Nigerian Army from an embarrassment because they had attacked their base again. So is this sort of synergy that I want to see? I would like to see more of these. People complain that we're not working together, but as you can see, with in the case of this general, they work together, and the result is there for all to see. We found the remains of the retired general who used to head the army admin department. So now what is left is to arrest everyone who played a part. You see, even the intelligence that narrowed the location of the vehicle to the mining pond has to be commended, because it was top-notch. At the time when it was said that they were looking for that vehicle in that pond, the residents were saying, no, this is a sacred and ancient pond, nobody should touch it. But at the end of the day, they discovered the vehicle. The remains of the retired general were not in the vehicle. Now, knowing that the army, having discovered the location of the vehicle, they know that his remains must be in that vicinity. The criminals went and exhumed his corpse from the shallow grave where he had earlier been buried and decided to take him to another village, believing that would make that if they cannot find the remains in that village, then the army will conclude that perhaps the killing was not carried out in that area. Village. But at the end of the day, thanks to the arrests that were made, they were able to get some of the suspects that led them to the final burial site. I mean, to the well where his remains
was finally found.
So, I want to demand that after this operation, the serial killing of people going to Abuja through that highway has to stop. They must secure that area. It shouldn't be that now that we found the general, then it will all end. All those bad boys in the area killing people for fun, they have to make sure that they are dealt with finally.
All right, GKB, like we heard, the army is blowing hot, talking about ensuring that the perpetrators do not go unpunished. How do you see that happening?
Two things. The first one, of course, is the fact that everybody is relieved because it was getting to a point that it looks like they are trying to just suppress those people without any evidence that somebody died. Because they saw the car, but the car will have been transported over kilometers to the point. But now we know that the entire team, the entire gruesome murder, and the attempt to cover it happened within a radius that the army can work with. This is the first stage. Second stage, of course, is now to get the perpetrators, get them to court, and make sure they pay for this crime. And again, we must not give the impression that it's an isolated case. Every Nigerian, no matter the circumstance, who happened to fall into the category that Nigeria fell into, of somebody missing while in transit, should be taken and be handled with the same level of commitment that they've done this time. Because we all know that a lot of missing persons between roads leading to Abuja, especially Kaduna Abuja and coming from Jos Abuja, that simply disappeared. Now we can open those cases using the same parameters, and I'm sure we'll get lots more than just the body of one general.
All right, articulate with the resistance we saw earlier from the persons and the people of the community and attempt to cover up the late general's body. Some have said that the community leaders are complicit in this matter. Do you think that they should as well be involved? The army should also involve them in their investigations as well.
There is no way anyone can, absorb the community leaders completely, even if they are not directly involved. You don't just, pants on an army general, seized his car, killed him. In the rural communities, everybody, knows the other person. If a stranger comes in, everybody is aware. So if anything happens, most people get to hear about it. So there is no way anybody can totally absorb the community leaders. But despite all this, the security agencies, especially the army, should just, be watched very well. I don't want them to take their laws into, because they will be angry. No, the army will be angry. Initially, it was suspicion, it was rumor, it was everything. But now that there is a proof, everybody's, eyes should just be, on that community. The army will be extremely restless that ordinary criminals can take one of our, great, gallant soldiers and just reduce them to nothing. And after a long while, see what has happened. You see, when soldiers, just as Jide said, when security agencies, when there is synergy, this is the kind of result you get. But as we have this, if our security agencies have been putting this kind of, painstaking effort into the killing or disappearance of every Nigerian, and God knows how many, maybe most of these, criminalities would have been faced out.
All right, Jide, now that his body has been found, what next?
Yeah, what next is to protect our communities better. President Buhari's government must protect our people better. Security is a big problem for this administration. In an election year, everyone should expect that the government will be asked questions about how it has protected the people. Too many killings. So government must get to the root of these needless killings. Government must find a way to bring perpetrators of these needless killings to justice, because so long as we don't bring people to justice, people don't see signs that criminals are being punished for their infractions, they too will feel emboldened. I'm not surprised that the government of Plateau State decided look, for these cases, those cases should be handled in Plateau State rather than Abuja. Because sometimes when those cases are transferred to Abuja, that's the last you hear. So for a lot of the people killing people in Plateau State and other places, what we want to see is justice being served. But usually what you just hear, but I remember the army announcing that it had handed over 162 headsmen to the police in Benue State.
That's the end of that story.
Yes, and since then, I've not heard that a single person
was taken to court.
A single person was taken to court. Rather, all we continue to hear, killings have continued, and the attempt to even make the victims of the killings look like the real killers of people. You see that happen with that community that I sent the young journalists to, in Benue State, where those priests were killed. Paid propagandists continue to litter our landscape, and they are telling us that, it's actually Christians that came to kill themselves. It's actually people of Benue that came to kill themselves. People choose to forget that history is there to judge them for the things that they do. So even when the Air Force had to chase those headsmen away from the community, we still continue to hear that, no, they were not the ones who killed those priests. Despite the fact that one of those priests, actually, in his last post on Facebook, he said that we have been surrounded by headsmen. Our country has now been taken over by people whose stock in trade is to lie to their liars, shameless liars who have taken over our country. If once people get paid, you will see some of them, they will come on, even our programs here.
Yes.
They will just come, you will see someone will sit before journalists and be telling lies. He's been paid by a devious politician in Abuja. He will come to TV stations and portray a completely different story. We cannot progressive people continue with this kind of mindset. Let our communities be protected. We want the president to do his best to protect our people the more. And I'm happy as we continue to insist that the president must buy more weapons for the army. I'm happy that the army has announced that it has just received a fresh consignment of weapons. This is what will make them function better. This is what will make them to be able to rein in these killers in our midst. And this is what will make us a better society to live in.
All right, GKB, the late general can now be given a befitting burial.
Yes.
So how do you see that playing out?
Well, knowing the Nigerian army and their penchant for doing the right thing. I think the general will be given a burial worthy of his rank. Don't forget, this is the head of admin
It's general.
of the Nigerian army. Technically, that's the most senior, you can use that word, civilian, who handles everyday thing in the army. So he must have touched the
He had
lives.
just retired before he was killed.
Just touched almost every life of every soldier, and I'm sure they are going to give him a hero's burial. But apart from that, I think it also sent a message to the other arms of the security forces. We all know from time that if you want a case solved, let there involve the senior police officer.
Okay.
Actually, the one that had to be murdered or disappear. And the Nigerian army will solve that case under 48 hours. Because they know the buttons to press and people to pick up. That shows that they know what to do.
It is when it involves you and I
That
that
they don't care.
remember the colonel that was kidnapped on Kaduna Abuja Highway, I think 2 years ago. You know, and we were like, how could a serving colonel? How could you kidnap a colonel? It turned out that members of his family actually carried out the kidnapping and went on to kill him. But in the end, just as he said, the truth came out. They found out who actually carried it out. When it is the mere mortal that is involved, that is when our country has so many unsolved murders.
Every day.
Yes, from the 60s, unsolved murders.
All right.
Because we show no real determination to find out those behind those killings.
All right, now let's quickly move forward. A Canadian-American actor and film producer, Ryan Reynolds, once said, quote, "Any kind of crisis can be good. It wakes you up," end quote. After the violent clash between members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria and security forces in Abuja, relevant authorities are waking up to their tasks. Police in the FCT arrested 400 Shiite members in connection with Tuesday's violent protest. The FCT Police Commissioner Bala Chiroma, who presented the suspects to the media in Abuja, said they have been detained for thorough investigation. Chiroma added that dangerous weapons like bottles of petrol bombs were recovered from them. To forestall an escalation, the Inspector General Ibrahim Idris has placed commissioners of police on red alert over activities of the Shiites. In one of the reports, it said that the suspects are being detained for discreet investigation. We don't really understand what that means, but how is this going to curb the activities of the Shiites? I'll start with you, Adekuni. Perhaps you know what discreet investigation means.
You need, when you look at the activities of the, I think, IMN,
Islamic movement.
everything the government has done so far is to encourage more of this kind of agitations.
How so?
Unfortunately, that is it. If you look at what happened, because you know this is not a new phenomenon, it's been happening for a very long time. But it came to a head, you know, in 2015. You remember the Kaduna when the leader was arrested?
Yes.
You remember commission of inquiry that was set up? The commission, you know, recommended some people for trial. Now, why has government not, you know, obeyed court orders on Ezagzaki? Now you have preferred charges on Ezagzaki. What about other people? His own group lost close to 400 people.
And then his four sons.
From the report of that commission of inquiry, the army lost one soldier. So when you are neck deep in this kind of hypocritical leadership, how does that solve the problem?
Hypocritical.
That's
a weighty word.
There is no sincerity in this. From the soldiers to Ezagzaki people, they are all Nigerians. Anyone that, you know, runs foul of the law, then let the law take its course. But what government does must be by the rule of law. See what is happening now. You are keeping their leader, they keep protesting, arresting 400. If you like, arrest 4,000. They will keep on doing it. They will keep on doing it, and you will keep on recording casualties. People will be bruised, brutalized, killed. these are Nigerians. You remember what led to Boko Haram? You know, we didn't have it before. Because the government of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua mishandled, Yusuf Mohammed and his group. What happened? They went underground and became a radical group that is disturbing the peace of the world, not only Nigeria. Don't give us another Boko Haram. Okay. The way government is going about it, these are human beings. They are not soldiers. When they put, you say they bring, you see them with petrol bombs. Many of these people were interviewed. You saw it. They said they came with bottles of petrol. That if there is too much
defend themselves.
So, but whatever is the case, believe me, the way we are going about it, I'm afraid.
JKB, I don't know if you seem to be on the same page with Adekunle, but then do you think that the Shiites could as well have handled this in a different way strategically?
Well, the Shiites or the IMN, there are so many Shiites groups in Nigerian space. The IMN, of course, had a long history of confrontation with the states. But this particular case, why cannot be justified, can be understood in the context of the fact that they've done literally the right things before. They went to court, they attended the inquiry, they did everything government said they should do. Yet their leader
is still being held.
And don't forget, they lost over 1,000 members since Buhari became president. Of course, you and I know that the schism in Islam between the Sunni and the Shiites is very deep. And since majority of Muslims all over the world are Sunnis, they tend to look away when things like this happen
to the Shiites,
because they think they are pagans, or that they don't follow the ways of the prophet, as it were. But that does not change the fact that it seems odd and oddly coincidental that every time this particular group are coming out, they always meet an army convoy going somewhere. They've never met a police convoy. They've never met an anti-riot police convoy. It's always a military convoy that they meet. I don't know. It's as a journalist.
They always provoke
it might be
they always attack.
So something.
They don't attack.
There's no jail somewhere. And when you read the report, you can see the report was so well written, and the army made sure that the way it was tilted was that we are going gingerly on our way. I don't know.
And the army always had very beautiful functions to do on that day.
On that day that
they
this will
always
come
applied the same route.
And then you wonder what happened to the anti-riot policemen, what happened to mobile policemen, people who are equipped to handle civil disobedience in the system. But as far as the IMN is concerned, they always find a way of robbing the army the wrong way. And I think the next thing to do right now is for government to find a way to either charge Zakasaki to court, let him go to process. If they want to jail him, let him go to jail, or stop this shenanigans.
He's been tried.
He's facing 8 charges now.
That's been tried.
But then, Jude, really, is the government really ready to tackle this issue head on?
They are tackling it head on. Whether some of us agree with the tactics that they are deploying is a different kettle of fish. I was reading, because sometimes when I take a position and you see people posting all kinds of stuff on social media that suggests that, oh, is it that you lost your head when you were saying those things? I go back and also read what other people are saying. And I ask myself, am I really the odd man out? If I believe in a cause and I'm in the minority, it may not bother me. Because after all, Mahatma Gandhi said, only the lily-livered glories takes its strength from the strength of numbers. That the valiant takes glory in fighting alone. So even if you believe in something, and many people don't see why you believe, it may not mean that you are wrong. It may well mean that the majority is wrong.
Yes,
after all, when Muhammad was in this world, majority of the people fought him. But today, he has more people behind him He has more people following him than even Twitter has. More people follow him, and he doesn't have a Twitter account. So the point that I'm trying to make is Archbishop Adewale Martins, I was reading him, he said, I believe there should be other milder ways of dispersing such religious procession without resorting to the use of the gun. We must not allow this to linger longer than necessary to avoid the mistakes that led to the birth of Boko Haram. This is the point that some of us have been making. People who enjoy trying to mislead the government, thank God they do not have a medium that will make government take them seriously. Because they are incapable of giving government a good advice. They don't have the capacity. Remember when some people were shouting on social media, bomb the Niger Delta, bomb the Niger Delta. We told them that it will make no sense. That will backfire. Now, we sent troops. We flooded Niger Delta with troops. What happened? Our own troops were sinking.
It's the same boys.
Sinking is the same boys that they were supposed to come and kill that were rescuing our soldiers
Yes.
from the creeks of the Niger Delta. In the end, what did the VP Oshibajo did? What did he do? He went to that area and engaged the people. It's not every time that you use force. Force doesn't always deliver the right result. I wish people would understand this. So today we are saying, look, instead of just resorting to killing people, using live ammunition against your own people, and paying heavily in the past when they don't sell weapons to you because they think you will turn those weapons against your people. Why don't we look for a way of resolving this matter in through dialogue? Someone went to court. I know that Femi Falana is his lawyer.
Yes.
And the court said, free this man, give on bail.
And
It doesn't
compensate
mean that you cannot still put him on trial. But you refused. We are choosing court judgments that we want to obey. It is wrong. So that is one. The people, you know, the religion is a dogma. These people have made up their minds. As long as you keep that man there, they will continue to protest. And we know they are not, there's no way you can even say, okay, these guys, that they are like Boko Haram. Because from the video that we saw, they were not carrying any weapon.
They are not.
And you saw women and children.
But they can be pushed.
Yeah?
But they can be pushed to become.
That is if you see many of the terrorists, many of the big time terrorists emerge from this kind of situations. Emerge from this kind of situation. We talked about it in the past. Because if you went, you level their home, you kill people, there could be someone who will not forgive you. And all his life, he will carry that scar. And he will be saying that when he gets the opportunity, he's going to avenge the death, even if it's just of the mother. So this is what we are saying. Avoid this. And I said yesterday that the best friend of the Chief of Army Staff is the VC of Modibo Adama University of Technology in Yola, Professor Kiari Mohammed, one of the best historians in this country. He warned, and I was there. It was an army seminar. He said, we are trying to create another Boko Haram by the way we are handling this. At least it's not Jide that said it. Professor Kiari Mohammed is probably watching me. And he's the best friend of Burate. They sat beside each other in primary school for 6 years. And he said, you are creating another Boko Haram. But the moment he said it, many of the soldiers in attendance were not happy. And I know that some of the people who write all those rubbish on Facebook, a lot of them too will not be happy. They believe that force is the way to solve every problem. No.
But this situation has to be resolved.
That is what we are suggesting. If the court says, free this man on bail, give him bail, it doesn't mean that his case has ended. Make it impossible for him to be able to travel. At least you can deposit his passport with the state. And then you go on, you monitor him. There's nobody bigger than the state. There's nobody who cannot be brought under control by the state. You can monitor him. But you have not ticked all the boxes by creating a situation in which the court says free someone on bail and you refuse. How will you do if a judgment favors you and someone else refuses to carry out the order? That is the thing.
A tough question there. Well, still to come. Buhari hosts aggrieved the APC aspirants to the dinner in Aso Rock. Stay with us. Well, Nigeria's ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, APC, has contended with raging fires sparked by the outcome of its recently concluded primaries. But the president has moved to douse the emirs, threatening to divide its ranks ahead of the 2019 elections. On Tuesday, President Muhammadu Buhari hosted aggrieved aspirants of the APC to a fence-mending dinner at the Aso Rock Presidential Villa. Aggrieved governorship, national and state assembly aspirants who failed to secure the party's tickets for 2019 elections were among the attendees. For the president, it is time they closed ranks and forged a united front. Jide, do you think this meeting will ensure that the fence is amended and they can forge a united front?
It's possible because after the Ekiti governorship primaries were highly rancorous, But the president, after the primaries, the president invited the combatants and told them to sheath their swords. They should work for the candidate who had emerged. The bitterness, the way the president came in at that point, doused the bitterness in the hearts of many of the aspirants. And in fairness to them, we saw them get up and work for me. No doubt about it. So if the president has stepped in this way, then I want to believe that will go a long way to placate some of the people who have been wronged. And as the president is also in position to make some promises that, look, going forward, there is a reward system in place whereby you'll be rewarded for working for the party. Because he knows, the president knows that the next election will be a close one. Anybody who does not know that is incapable of analyzing the voter behavior in Nigeria. The next election will be a close one. So wherever the president can get votes, he will be doing his best to get those votes. So these people, these aggrieved people, if they are left alone, they will work against their party. We saw it. We saw people work against their party even in Osun. People worked against their party. Even in Ekiti, some people still worked against the APC. So the president knows now that going into the general election, if he does not try to placate these people, a lot of them will work against the party and it will hurt the party. Some have left already. So the ones who have not indicated a desire to leave, the right thing to do is to talk to them, tell them, gentlemen, we can't all win. Some people will win, some people will lose. Now you've lost, clearly you are not happy, but in the overall interest of the party and the well-being of the party, calm down. Your own time and your reward will come in due course. So that's the way a father should talk. A father should not say, oh, those that they don't matter, if they lie, they can defect. No. The president must have realized his mistakes. He makes mistakes when he talks many times, but he's also someone who learns from his mistakes. Those who are far away from him will not know that he actually learns from his mistakes. So now the president has seen that politics is an inclusive sport. Everyone is important. Treat everyone as if it's important. That way, you will be able to put your house in order. Because big people, governors, like the governor with the Olympic-sized cap, and the governor of Imo State, the governor of Zamfara State,
Yari.
They are all aggrieved. Yari is the chairman of the Governors Forum. You can't say that Yari is not influential.
And Okorocha is the chairman.
Okorocha is the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum. You can't say they are not influential. So you cannot even also say that the man with the Olympic-sized cap is not influential. In his own right, he's influential. So try and bring all these people together and say, gentlemen, let us work together. The party comes first. And then try to find a way by which you can also make them happy through power sharing of some sort. So that way...
patronage.
All right, GKB, Jide just talked about the president speaking like a father to these people. And from the governors he has mentioned, you can recall the way they, aired their grievances. And when a father speaks, a child can decide to either listen or to still go the way he chooses to go. Do you see these people really dropping their personal interests for the interests of the party?
Most of them. Most of them will do that. Don't forget, you're talking about a father with a vast chest of rewards. There's about 5,000 plus appointments that the president can make in the next 4 years. More than 10,000 if he wants to stretch it a little bit. And that can accommodate everybody. But again, there are some that no matter what you tell them, they will leave. Those you cannot tell. He has done what he's supposed to do as a father. He has called them together. Let's get together as a family. Every time there'll be a winner, there'll be a loser. Like Whisper said, it's like fishing in the ocean. You always meet somebody new. But like we said earlier, some will obey, some will agree, and some will leave. Some will leave frontally, some will leave through the back door. Some will still have one leg in the party while walking against
some will still need to destroy the party together.
So it's a long shot, but he has done the needful. That's what he has done now. Everybody come together, let's work for the emergence of our thing. But the danger is this: the presidential election comes first. So it's his own interest to make sure there's a united house for that election.
Yes.
After the election, all bets are off.
And this is also an opportunity for him to attempt to save Oshomole.
Because I was going to go to that. Because some have said that the president's wading in showed that the whole crisis was overwhelming for Oshomole to handle.
I don't think it's too overwhelming for Oshomole to handle, except the fact that, in some instances,
very powerful egos were
in
bruised.
some instances, the national...
All right, if you could just hold the thought. We have Johnson on the line calling from Kaduna. Go ahead, Johnson, with your contribution. Yes.
Good evening. The name is John.
You're welcome.
Calling from Kaduna.
Yeah.
Yes, I just want to quickly make reference to the general body discovered. You see, it is unfortunate that at times things like this will happen, and it's only when we watch programs and you hear people like GB and Co. talking and shouting before you see government trying to do something. We all know that government wants this problem. And thank God also that they learn at times. If this government can release character like Abidu Sokoto, release character like the police officer, then I lost confidence in government. How do we see this government taking proactive action? Because we have many people who are missing, many people who have died, just because of this kind of rascals who take laws into their hands and enjoy doing it. Now in fact, we pray the listen. We pray
All right.
the listen.
Johnson,
Thank you very much.
thank you for your contribution. Yeah. All right, Adinkule.
I was trying to say the crisis may not be too overwhelming for Oshomole, except in some instances. Politicians are filled with egos. I don't want to name names, but there are some states that that the party didn't do well. So whether this can help in that kind of situation, I don't know. Because I can say for sure that some of these governors will not work for the party. Because the moment you don't allow them to produce or influence the emergence of who succeed them or whatever, that's the end. There's nothing, you don't tell such governors, I will give you board appointments, this. Even 100 board appointments don't add up as far as they are concerned. So, Oshomole himself is doing his best, but it's good that the president is trying to step in. It's not a sign that Oshomole is overwhelmed, no. But the crisis, many of the things Oshomole cannot handle, the president will handle with his. He's the commander-in-chief. And nobody says no to the president. I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. Those that will listen. Those that will go away.
Ashwaju Tinubu has gone there today. So,
To mop up.
What the president said to Oshomole was that he should solve the problem before the next NEC meeting of the party. Because governors were beginning to mobilize against Oshomole and saying that they don't want Oshomole anymore. In fact, there was a governor who actually organized an anti-Oshomole rally in a state. I'm hearing that even in Imo that there's a rally going on now against Oshomole. So if that groundswell of opposition...
Now, when the meeting was just yesterday?
Yes, today. As we sat here, someone sent me a message.
Wow.
So if it continues like if they continue to build a consensus against the chairman of the party, with the war chest that the governors have, with the influence that they wield,
The structures,
the signs are ominous for the party chairman, and that's why the president has waited at the right time to see how he can solve the problem, so that the party can go into that contest
As a united.
So do you see this, bringing the party together? Can they form a formidable opposition to the other parties?
It depends. You see, because they are the ruling party, the contestation for power will naturally be higher
within
their own party. It's because in some states you just know that once you are the candidate of the APC, you've won the election. Borno is one of those parties, those states. Once you've won the ticket, you are the
incoming governor.
So that is the thing. Now people will do whatever it takes to get that ticket, and governors want to put their own person to succeed them, because they want their legacy to continue one way or the other. The projects, what governors don't like is for projects that they take seriously to suddenly be abandoned, and that will happen when a hostile person takes over. So that's what they want to avoid.
But the funniest thing about the matter is
if you could just hold the thought, we have a caller from Lagos. Go ahead with your contribution. Johnson, yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Jackson.
Okay, Jackson. Welcome.
Okay, now I want to make contribution about the dinner hosted by the president.
All right.
Okay. What I want to say is that this is part of the thing that has continued to make the president of this nation not to perform effectively. Because when you call an agreed member of your party to a dinner like this, promising them of a juicy appointment after the election, then these are some of the persons, maybe they may not be competent for such juicy appointments you are fixing for them or you are promising them. And these are some of the things that have continued to affect our country like this, because this government continues to promise its members for juicy appointments, but they are not concerned whether they are capable of carrying out such appointments or not. And when somebody is not capable of carrying out an appointment, you appoint such person to...
Jackson, thank you for your contribution. Well, GKB, you wanted to share a thought.
Yes, I said it's ironical that apart from 1 or 2 states in Nigeria, no godson has ever been loyal beyond a particular number of years. So all this fighting to install successors is just a
waste of time.
It's a waste of time as far as I'm concerned. Because ultimately, 1 or 2 years down the line, they are going to pounce on their godfathers and tear them to shreds. So sometimes it will be your own interest. Sometimes it will be their own interest to let a neutral person become the governor.
They won't allow that.
All right, now let's quickly move forward. Rather than dying down, the furore over a new minimum wage for Nigerian workers rages on. Tuesday's announcement by governors after a meeting in Abuja that they have agreed to pay 22,500 naira as minimum wage infuriated organized labor rather than placating it. The Nigerian Labour Congress has rejected the figure, as it is 7,500 naira short of the 30,000 naira earlier agreed upon. According to the NLC, the Nigerian workers are the least paid in Africa, hence the paycheck put forward by the governors will not be accepted. As such, the planned strike for November the 6th will go ahead to force government to have a rethink. Who blinks first in this looming showdown? Let's watch this.
Following a meeting of Nigerian Governors Forum, where we deliberated on the national minimum wage, after a briefing from our representative and referred committee, we submitted as follows. In consonance with the national economy, it is in this sense that we feel strongly that acceptable minimum wage must be done in a manner that the total personnel costs does not exceed 50% of the total revenue available to each state. Governors therefore agree to pay a national minimum wage of 22,500 naira. The issue of 30,000 was a compromise position that was agreed at the tripartite negotiating table. It wasn't the demand of labor. It wasn't a figure imposed by labor. It was mutually agreed at the conclusion of the meeting of the tripartite negotiating committee on the 5th of October this year. And therefore, this is the stand of labor. This is the stand of organized labor. Minimum wage is not an allocation. It's not a unilateral award. It is negotiated. And therefore, the known process of arriving at figure is a tripartite negotiation. And therefore, I think the figure that have come out from the Governors Forum, I think it's a mere pronouncement. And therefore, it has no place, it has no basis in the collective bargaining machinery as provided by the various ILO conventions and also our national laws. And therefore, what the law recognizes is a tripartite negotiation. And as I said, 6 governors represented the interests of all the governors, one per geopolitical zone. They have been part of the decision, they have been part of the process, and they were part of the process where the decision was taken. And therefore, I think at this point, Labour need to reiterate that the allocation or award of 22,500 is hereby rejected.
All right, so after 7 years, when the last increment was made, the governors agreed to have a 4,500 naira increase to the 18,000 naira, which is the 22,500. And from what the Labour is saying, there was an agreement, a negotiation, which the governors also agreed to 30,000. So what is really happening? There was an agreement of the 30,000 naira. That was the tripartite negotiation table. Yeah. And now the governors are coming with a 22,500 naira figure. Jide?
Maybe after the meeting, some of the governors approach Yari and other people, or another governors. You know, one governor was to represent each of the geopolitical zones. So maybe the other governors disagreed with the idea of paying labor 30,000 naira. Maybe that's where the disagreement came from. But agreement is agreement. Once you've reached an agreement at that level, those governors, those 6 governors were representing their colleagues. And whatever they got into, whatever deal they struck with the other people on the panel, on the committee, is binding on the remaining governors. That's the way it should be. My suspicion is that some of those governors said, why did you agree to this? Remember sometime, almost 2 weeks ago, some of them were talking about 20,000. And I'm like, you want to add just 2,000? This thing, the minimum wage was last reviewed in June 2011. Now, it's supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. Okay. Every 5 years. So, which means that we are even late now. We are even late now. We are late by 2 years now.
Halfway into the next.
We are late. So, if at this point, we should have had a minimum wage. So, dragging on and on and on. You know, I was saying it during one of our discussions here that the governors were the problem. Someone said, Labour didn't begin to agitate on time. But you can't blame Labour. After the president instituted the tripartite committee, they didn't call for a meeting until 3 months after. So you can't blame Labour for what has happened. And the Minister of Labour, Ngige, complained that governors were handling the matter with levity. He's there. He complained. So we've seen now that, okay, we are close to a decision. Suddenly governors are saying, no, it's 22,500 that they can pay. I'm not surprised because some of those governors, even as we speak today, have not been able to pay the minimum wage of 18,000.
But some of them are still the ones that agreed to the 22,500 naira.
I think majority of them don't pay 18,000. Not some. Very few pay 18,000.
As minimum wage?
Yes. So such governors, you are asking them to pay
22,000.
So people that cannot pay 18,000. You see, some of our governors are just callous and inhuman. I don't know. They can very wicked. look at the way they live, look at what they enjoy. But the workers, under in their government, you cannot pay them. How much is 22,500 naira?
How much is
No,
30,000?
30,000.
Okay, how much is 30,000? Look at the exchange rate before this government came in and today. Look at that percentage.
Look at the absolute value.
No, inflation has really
Inflation has
quadrupled.
taken over. If you give them
Especially
100
the increase in fuel price. It led
by
to the rise in
May
food prices.
2015, if you want to enjoy the same level of comfort with your cash, as at that time, you need times 3 of that same amount to have what you had at that time. So now you are having only 4,500 naira. These governors are jesters. Many of them, I'm sorry to use that kind of word.
I think the problem, like you've highlighted here seriously, is the fact that we have very unserious people running our states. And it's not in our styles. It's basically something we created with our own hands. Because the same set of people that will go back to the polls and return to office. And people will be wearing T-shirts. Out of these governors, there are one of them, if you remember, who employed 2,000 personal assistants. And he himself said they come once in a month to get money.
The local government.
So you can see that they know exactly
They
what
don't work.
We said it
They
here
don't collect
before that the governors are going to be the clog in this wheel because they want to drag this thing beyond
Until after the election.
They are going to keep making
Exactly, that
promises.
is where they are going. To introduce new controversy that will make the whole process impossible to handle.
So the original agreement to them is a no-no because they have no intention of paying 18,100 naira, not to talk of 32,500. They have no intention. So they will do this will drag on for another couple of weeks. Remember, the election is in 3 months. If they can do this shenanigans until February or end of March, they will have won.
Quote me, if the Labour agrees to 22,500, your governors will come up with another controversy.
And say they can't pay the 2,500.
They don't mean this 22,500.
They don't want to pay.
They don't want it.
They don't want to pay.
Some of them cannot pay the 18,000 naira.
They don't even want to pay.
It's not that they cannot pay. Some of them are not paying. It's not that they cannot pay. Some of the frivolities they enjoy, if you let go of them, you can pay these workers.
You know, every week they go to Abuja, and most times they take private jets, and it's $13,000. $13,000 anytime you want to charter a jet. I was in Enugu. I saw when one of our top Nigerian leaders came, and they had to take a private jet. And I asked, I said, how much did they get? They told me it was $13,000. So these people frequently go to Abuja like they are going to the toilet.
And all their
they
aides
pay
will follow
13,000 all the time.
Most of their aides will follow them.
Allowances.
Because of time, the NLC is saying it is going ahead with its proposed
Let them go
strike. Do you think that will solve or change anything?
That's the only weapon they have. They've reached the end of it.
And it's a legitimate weapon.
Yeah.
They've shown understanding enough. They've shown that they really, really love this government. They love this country.
They bend over backwards.
If the country is frustrating them, if the country does not want to recognize, they can go on strike. And don't look back until they blink, the other people blink.
And don't forget the other insult about no work, no pay.
Yes, that was what I was going to. Yes.
Why did we even bring that at this time? This is a legitimate demand. It is backed by the Constitution.
Law, it's our law.
The Constitution stipulates that there must be a new
national
minimum wage
after every 5 years.
Every 5 years. So these guys are in a position of strength. They are backed by law.
Everything
Whatever
is in
they
their
are
favor.
saying, you have to give it to them. And we said that they should not have allowed this thing to drag for this long.
Yeah.
But all because they had no plan to pay. That's why they were just looking for where do we drag this thing? How do we kick this can down the road and wait and wait and wait? But unfortunately for us, elections have come. Elections have come. Yeah. So what do you do now? And NLC is saying governors who refuse to pay, workers will vote out those governors. Yes, and they are saying, look, the people should vote them out. So it's important that President Buhari and other people realize that this is an election year.
I think the president should step in
he has to do
personally
something now. He has to do something now. Otherwise, they could be embarrassed.
It will affect him too.
Yes, now.
It will affect him first.
In fact, you are right.
Well, gentlemen, I must thank you for your contributions on the show. This is how far we can go. Well, that's all on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Veronica Danik Boy. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.